for the establishment of the Learning and Knowledge Management System in the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection in Liberia. This presentation is one of the key deliverables for the Monitoring and Evaluation Technical Consultant under Liberia Women Empowerment Project, where I have decided to revise my deliverables and my reports to make them more susceptible to understand key decision makers and technical colleagues. First, to understand what is a learning and knowledge management system, specifically in public sector, and what is learning and knowledge management strategy. So to put it in simple language, every day, learning is the way people learn in an institution or an organization. Knowledge management is what do we do with the knowledge through different processes when we arrive to an institution, when we are hired, when we work for an institution and we leave the institution. What is happening with the knowledge we bring, we acquire through various processes. System is assembly of organized parts that work in a coherent way. And strategy is a series of interventions that will lead towards the final outcome, the desired outcome and desired future. So if we want to be very technical, here is a reference quoted from 2011, which comes from sales and marketing and still is valid for public sector. Knowledge management system is defined as a system that involves assigning roles and responsibilities to people, implementing processes for knowledge identification, capturing, assessing and sharing, and utilizing technology for the storage, organization and retrieval within an organization's framework of governance. So this is very technical and very important definition. Why do we talk about knowledge management? Because it has positive and significant effect on employee performance and vice versa. Knowledge management strengthens monitoring and evaluation processes and results. So we can't talk about monitoring and evaluation and not talk about knowledge management and learning. Those things are very, very interconnected and they are key. And it is most important that we build our knowledge and our policies and our decisions on previous knowledge, previous failures, and previous case studies and best practices. Here are two key references you can consult where those two quotes are taken from. If you click on one of these references, you will see the USAID top 10 ways knowledge management and monitoring and evaluation work together. I will not go into the details, but I believe that after this quote, you will trust me that knowledge management and monitoring evaluation are two very important components of any institution. So for further reference, there are several examples from various sectors that you can consult. You can see first three come from South Africa from 2023, and the last one, Joanna O'Riordan, it is an example from 2020 from Northern Ireland. There are three more references. They are also coming from various countries. And I suggest most warmly that M&E people and everybody or anybody who is interested in M&E consult them further. So what is our focus question for this presentation? This is my proposal in terms of what needs to be done to establish the ministry as a learning institution and the staff as the national elite, leading and coordinating results for gender equality in Liberia. This has to be joint effort. This can't be only one department initiative. So when we are talking about learning and knowledge management system, of course, those are made of people, processes and policies and technology. So these are three components. However, There are also components which are visible and non-invisible. Those are organizational culture, crafts or knowledge which public servants have. So crafts and knowledge is something opposite science. It is the skills that people have and acquire. Then we are talking about institutional memory and local knowledge, or national knowledge or national expertise. So I will present you how all these components fit into the system that I'm proposing. So this is the system that I'm proposing. You can see that it has 6 components starting from 0. 0 is the onboarding process which happens in civil service agency, which is beyond scope of Liberia Women Empowerment Project. So I'm not familiar with that project, but it refers to standard onboarding for civil servants, some computer skills, and in operating in an online platforms and environment. Let's analyze each of these components in more details. So let us link the proposed system and the components. So if we are talking about organizational culture, we have components 0, 1, 2, and 4. This is about learning and knowledge management. So the first learning happens in the civil service agency. Then you remember we were talking about people, policies, and technology. Number 1 is part of organizational culture, but it is basic infrastructure and systems. Number 2 is employee onboarding and orientation, which happens when people enter the Ministry of Gender. And number 4 is something called weekly learning sessions, which we establish in the Resource Center every Tuesday. If we are talking about craft, skills, profession, and occupation, this is experience of civil servants. The experience they bring to the institution, they acquire in this institution. So it is not contrary, but it is opposite to science. Those two are like in parallel. So for Ministry of Gender, it is important that people and new staff are oriented and learn about key women rights frameworks and Liberia state reports and key Liberia indicators. Number 3 is institutional memory, which is 3, 4, and 5. So 3, institutional memory, is something we call resource center, which is closely linked to the weekly learning sessions and community of practice. And there is a proposal to establish this resource center as a center for excellence in gender. It is worth some food for thought. Number 4, as I mentioned already, weekly learning sessions. And number 5, one of the recommendations is to establish and maintain community of practice comprised of M&E focal points and the gender and social inclusion unit focal points across ministries, agencies, and commissions. Those would be the people who should actually take care of sex disaggregated and gender disaggregated data. In the end, when we are talking about local knowledge, when I think local, I think national. So we need to think how we can connect 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 is the resource center or center for excellence in gender. 4 is learning sessions in the resource room. 5 is the community of practice, which we can maintain to promote and to advance gender sensitive and sex disaggregated monitoring and evaluation and gender theme working groups, whatever we decide to call them. And number 6 is something we present and how we reach out to external audiences. This is the ministry's website. This is ministry's Facebook. This will be Gender Information Management System with key gender data for Liberia. So let us discuss components, specific components of all these proposed 6 components of the knowledge and learning management system for the Ministry of Gender. We have already mentioned civil service agencies doing onboarding according to its own curriculum and process. And this is what they do. This is beyond the terms of reference of this analysis. So let us understand what basic infrastructure and systems are. We are talking about hard and soft infrastructure. So we need really to establish hardware and software for systematic learning. We need to support knowledge sharing across departments and to establish productive workspace. How are we going to do it? We will establish SharePoint, OneDrive to store various templates, policies, procedures, reports, evaluations, and we will train people to use and to retrieve this data, to use SharePoint, to save data on OneDrive, and to use their official emails, including official signatures for data safety and protection. It is important to know that without using official emails, there is no any data safety and data security for Liberia. As long as people are using their Gmails, all sensitive and national data are dispersed across various clouds, which is not really good. If we are talking about the knowledge people bring to institution, they acquire during onboarding, when they work, when they produce knowledge, what they do with it, and when they leave institution, what happens? What are the protocols and procedures? This is the component too. So what we need to understand is we need to establish minimum training in gender and monitoring, evaluation, and results-based management. We are talking about M&E staff, but also of anybody else who comes and joins Ministry of Gender. They really need to know what is gender, what is sex, from the driver to the minister. There is no any excuse. We can start with free resources using UNICEF, FAO, UN Women, free training academies and training centers. We can make people, we can make new staff understand what are the Liberia state reports on women human rights treaties and what are the key international gender equality and women empowerment calendar days. There is one suggestion here to link closely with the University of Liberia gender and interdisciplinary studies. So by this way, we are building something sustainable by linking institutions internally and externally. Number 3 is what are we going to do with the resource center or resource room? So the proposal, the recommendation is to establish it as a center for excellence in gender analysis and results. Let's see how to do that. So we should organize library, electronic library, and we should use computer center. And we should use OneDrive and SharePoint to store reports, evaluations, and ensure knowledge and information transfer happens across departments. And we can use this to orient new interns. If we want to attract new workforce and if we want to promote national experts, we can easily establish the database of interns and national experts and use resource room to orient them. This resource room could be the key place, key venue where they will be oriented. Something like civil service agency, only internal gender service agency within the Ministry of Gender. Number 4, the recommendation is to continue with weekly learning sessions. It should be internal across departments with guest speakers and directors and colleagues from IT sector, human resources, facilitate learning sessions. Why is it important? There is the best and most effective way to transfer knowledge across departments and to spread the news. There are different methodologies and tools and strategies which can be used for this. But weekly learning sessions from 10 to noon, they are the key for knowledge acquiring and knowledge transfer. So there are different ways we can establish those learning sessions. You can here read the several proposals. I will not go into details. You can really, it is about interactive workshops for skill development. We can organize collaborative projects with local organizations, civil society, national task force, universities, and we can do performance appraisals and learning events from various evaluations and reports. Number 5 is a proposal to establish community of practice for gender sensitive monitoring and evaluation and gender and social inclusion units. GSIU, they already exist, so we just need to establish database which will be available to everybody, so for the ease of access, and we need to find a way to attract these people to come more often and to promote gender as our advocates. So it is most important to build the critical mass of these people with skills in sex disaggregated data, gender disaggregated data, gender analysis, gender mainstreaming, and gender planning and budgeting. Those 5 topics should be the first topics that we need to establish Ministry of Gender as a center of excellence leading national efforts in this way. Then number 6 is how do we reach out towards external audience. It is there is a proposal to establish MOUs or letters of intent or collaboration with University of Liberia, Center for Multidisciplinary Studies and Gender, LISGIS, Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, and other continental actors across Africa. Like there are some good examples from other African countries. So this is how the system looks like, and it is proposal for your consideration. Details coming in part 2. Thank you so much for your attention.